Oil hovering around $94 a barrel. Won't begin with that tonight because government is being urged or asked to use improved revenue from crude oil exports to cushion consumers. New data from the bulk oil distributors show that fuel prices are expected to go up by over 4% a litre from Wednesday. Now, the 2022 budget pegged a barrel of crude oil at $62.5, but with the commodity trading at a high of almost $95 a barrel, government is said to have made some windfall. We will speak with the Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, Duncan Amwa, in a bit. First, this report.
The expected increments has been influenced by the current development on the world market that has seen the price of crude oil cross the $90 mark per barrel. There are even fears that it could hit $100 a barrel by the end of this month. Based on data seen by Joy Business, we expect about 3 pesos jump for the price of petrol per litre and about 4 pesos jump in the price of diesel per litre. Again, based on our engagement with some major oil marketing firms, they argue that it might be difficult to absorb the expected increase, while some have maintained that they may pass on a moderate hike to consumers, looking at maybe around 2 pesos per litre increase. But for some, they argue that the time has come for government to intervene to help cushion consumers. This is based on the fact that prices of petroleum products could be going up further because of the price movements of crude oil on the international market. Many will also be worried about the impact of this on the cost of living and could also lead to inflation rate going up further. With this increment, the price of petrol and diesel could be getting closer to the 8 cedi mark.
All right, let's speak with Duncan Amwa, who is Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. He has been reacting to the latest news of fuel price increases. He says the extra revenue can be used to support importers and distributors of fuel to cushion consumers. Great to have you tonight on Business Live. So tell us a bit more about the point you're making. All right, we'll get right back to Duncan Amwa once we are able to establish contact with him. But all right, I want to take you back to our earlier story to do with fuel price hikes and how the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers thinks that consumers can't be cushioned. Executive Secretary of COPEC GH, Duncan Amwa, joins me, and so he was making the point about using the monies we make from fuel exports to cushion consumers. Explain to us as how exactly that would help the consumer if that money is used to sort of mitigate the costs.
Well, Darrell, good evening and thanks for having me once again. You have a situation on our hands as a country. Petroleum price increment is simply threatening to erode every economic gain that the government could possibly point a finger to, simply because cost of living is rising by the day. Inflation that used to be single digit today is hovering around 13.9. Clearly, things are getting bad, and fuel pricing accounts for a lot of the economic misalignment we have currently. So we do think that it is in the government's interest to find an immediate solution to these increases. The question has often been asked, what can the government do? We've put policy papers together for Finance Ministry. It's not been attended to. We are again putting to government that the 2022 budget, as far as our petroleum export, the crude that we produce from Takoradi and the other fields to export, we had projected within the budget $62.5 a barrel to augment our budgetary expenditure. And so when you wake up and it's 70, it's 80, those additional monies are called windfall revenues. Government could simply safely decide that between 62.25 to 94.95 currently, you are dealing with over $30 a barrel. If government decided I'm applying $10 a barrel to the local market, it should suffice to be able to cushion the the bulk distribution companies, the BDCs who import fuel for all of us. Why we say this, Darrell, prices are set to go up again by 20-30%.
Right.
Once that happens, by 4-5%. Once that happens, there is a new benchmark value of 7.78, 7.8. And because fuel prices are incremental, if you have to now even reduce from 7.8 by another 30, you now come to 7.5. You do not much. But if you're able to sustain it at 7.5 or 7.2 or 7.3, anytime you need to come down, you easily go into the 6th region. Unfortunately, we wait week in, week out for government interventions which never come. Unfortunately, again, government also happens to be the largest consumer within the country. Talk of the Office of Government Machinery, talk of the ministries, departments, agencies, talk of all other governmental functionaries, talk of the executive, the legislature, talk of the judiciary, who also depend on financing as far as their fueling is concerned. Government consumes a lot. And so if you would spend 500 million Ghana cedis within a year, because fuel was probably 5 cedis a liter, when it goes to 7 cedis, it goes to 8 cedis, governmental expenditure would simply rise by that much, 700, 800. Again, cost of goods and services, contracts, the cost of building roads per kilometer would simply shoot up astronomically. The cost of services, goods and services to government agencies would definitely take a chunk of the revenue that finance ministry purportedly is looking to save. So you would save, and the expenditure a bit will come and consume or wipe out everything. So we think that instead of using these windfall revenues as savings, government should take a bold decision and apply part of the windfall revenue to the BDCs who import fuel and say, look, we've seen a certain increase of $20-30 dollars per metric. How many metric are we taking within a month? 40,000. Multiply that, that's about $12 million. Okay, we'll find the money somewhere for you. So don't increase pump prices, because if BDCs don't increase, the OMCs have no business adding on. So if you are able to hold the BDC position from going up, you've saved the entire Ghanaian economy. Unfortunately, Darrell, those interventions have been long in coming, and as we speak, so until something changes, in a day or two, Ghanaians are going to wake up to another adjustment in pump prices. We don't think this is what the government itself would want to see happen. So,
and I get you on the point. I get you on the point that fuel prices are going up, and it's going to have an impact on just about everything. Then again, government is trying to save some money to make up for the crisis it is in with this debt, and so you just wonder how they're going to go about it. It's a dilemma, sort of. Your thoughts?
Darrell, I have explained. Government would need money to make do its commitment on our loans, external and internal borrowing. Government will also need money to make do on its recurrent expenditure, not capital expenditure. The recurrent expenditure, fuel will factor largely. Capital expenditure, fuel would factor largely. And so if government intends, like we have done projections to the extent that for 2021, windfall values that accrue to the state was hovering around 2.5 billion Ghana cedis, due to the variations in what we projected and what the actuals were on the international market. If you do a 2.5 billion Ghana cedi saving,
okay,
right, and Office of Government Machinery budget alone doubles from, let's say, 1 billion to about 2.2 billion or 3 billion, that expenditure line item alone would have wiped out every single peso that you would have saved from the windfall revenue. Mind you, government contracts would also increase. I'm talking of capital expenditure items would also increase.
Okay.
Cost of living for everybody in the country would go up. And so we think that that saving of 2.5, as opposed to using that to offset the variations that could stabilize or reduce fuel prices. If you ask any sound economic thinker, I'm sure they will go for the former, because it would definitely make sense to save the economy than to save the revenue, and then the economy is also in some jeopardy.
And I guess it makes sense, and I hope that they consider it. Thanks very much indeed, Duncan Amwa, Executive Secretary of COPEC, for your thoughts tonight on Business Live.